matter how it ends, it matters how you stand. This is Lavoy Finicum. One cowboy stands for freedom. See you later.
All right, so we're here to stop the digital control trap. All right, so Lisa is going to tell us how we can do that and explain what the digital control trap is and help us to defeat that. So Lisa and her organization are the activists that People's Rights is here to come together and protect when their rights are violated. So we're the insurance policy for the action people like Lisa. Okay, so everyone, welcome Lisa.
I'm sure you folks realize that a lot of our rights are threatened right now, and that what we do right now is extremely important. I've been looking at the messaging from various people who have been writing and doing videos online for the past few years, and I'm watching certain people. Holocaust survivor Vera Sharav, who's got a group called Association. I think it's. It's just like Association for Human Rights Protection. She says it's crucial to fight digital ID and digital so-called currency. Investment banker Catherine Austin Fitz says that digital currency is actually a control grid, a digital concentration camp, and a digital slavery system. Facial recognition software developer Aman Jabi says that this whole scheme with the 5G and the surveillance and the digital currency would spell game over for Team Humanity, which I take to mean game over for our rights. And Dr. Michael Yeadon, toxicologist, former vice president of Pfizer, is calling the projected result a digital slaughterhouse because everyone in the world will be forced to take hundreds of shots, which they're moving all these shots to an mRNA platform, which means changing the genetics of people, and that would endanger us. So today I want to talk about the elements, what I'm referring to as the digital trap, which is what the other terms that people are saying it's a digital concentration camp. Digital trap is a little more mild, but it's the same idea. What are the elements of this trap? Evidence that the globalist ruling elite are moving toward a goal of total control of all people. Becoming aware of the psychological war to maneuver us to do what we would not consciously choose. And most importantly, some of the many action steps we can and must work on taking right now to not comply and thus to thwart the digital trap while non-compliance is still an option. Let's start by having everyone raise your hand if you want to keep the right to what medical interventions go into your body and your children's bodies.
Yes.
How about, do you want control over what you eat, that you would prefer not to eat things like insects and worms?
Of course.
How about to be able to shop for food even if you did not get the latest shot?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want the freedom to say or post what you want online, even if it's a dissenting opinion, and still buy what you please? Do you want to keep the freedom to drive and travel across town, around the country, or around the world? How about keeping your access to your hard-earned money without taxation, without representation, and arbitrary withdrawals from your account, which you will not be able to fight? How about the right to keep everything you own? These are all no-brainers, right? And now, raise your hand if you'd like to take action to preserve these rights. All right, so unfortunately, as many of you know, there are people working to strip all these rights from us and trap us in the world we would not knowingly choose. And this has been envisioned for a long time. For example, I've got a quote from Aldous Huxley, except for that I don't have the slide for it, so I'm going to have to add it to my presentation. He was planning out these things in 1931. Now, he wasn't just a novelist, he was also a globalist thinker, and he was interested in, he said that the quote is something like, the ideal society is one where people think they're free, but they're not free. So that they will basically be suppressed without realizing that they're being suppressed. And so everybody will be happy, especially the people who are in charge, because they're the ones doing the suppressing, and they'll have the opportunity to own stuff and, you know, do what they want, when the rest of the people basically are enslaved without even realizing that they're slaves. So whether we realize it, we have been maneuvered into helping the globalists move their plans along. And as I go through the list of the aspects of what they've been planning for us to trap us, the answer to staying free is to not comply with every single thing that I show you. And you're going to see these are things that have become normal parts of our lives. So you have to know where this is heading to realize that the non-compliance is really worth it, because we have to make changes, and changing is hard. We've gotten used to doing things, and we each have things we can do more of. So I'm going to go through, first of all, what the aspects of this trap are. So the problem with this trap is that all the rights that I mentioned before are outside the trap. If you're in the trap, you won't have any of those things. So you'll be able to see it on the recording, and you won't be able to see it as easily, I don't think, here. However, what we have here is that I have an octagon shaped like a stop sign corral. And Catherine Austin Fitts calls this the digital corral. You lose some of the resolution, but you get the general idea. Okay, so number one, smartphone as surveillance. Now, what we don't realize is they use the term smart because they're sort of flattering our egos, but the word smart, when they flatter us with the word smart. They want us to feel like we're smart. The thing is that they're smart, and in fact, SMART is an acronym. Surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting technology. It's transmitting. It transmits your information. It's going into, I presume it's going into the cloud. Now, I admit on a regular basis that I'm not a technology person. I've gathered the information. All the information that I'm presenting today is material that I've gotten from other people that I've assembled together to try to package it so that people can understand it clearly. And I'm not going to be able to explain to you how the technology transmits, but I can tell you that if you look online, you'll find that the information is out there about how smart technology works. So the phone never turns off. Edward Snowden has said the spies used to take off the batteries. Have you tried taking out your battery from your phone lately? Yeah. They've sealed it. My 3G phone, you could take out the battery. 4G phone, can't do it. You can't get 3G signal anymore. Take out the battery, signal doesn't work. It doesn't turn off. So that means that it can always be listening to you. In addition, it's got a camera here. Come back to that. The camera is always taking pictures of you. So the phone, it sees you and it hears you, and it's transmitting your information. Number two, digital identity and QR codes. Now, you folks know what a QR code is. It's the little black and white, sort of like a barcode, little black and white dots. It's a square. It's short for quick response. They want us to have our own QR code on our body. Or a computer chip in our hand. Not sure which technology they'll decide to use. However, somebody was actually, somebody named, I remember the name of his name. One of economics professor was shown by one of the global bankers that the chip that they want to use, it's the size of a grain of rice. By the way, you put those kinds of chips into a dog when they chip them, that's a site where they tend to get cancer. So, no, who's checking this? I don't know, but that's what they like. So, so the idea is that you would be scannable, and then your information goes into a giant database. Central bank, number three is your money. Central bank digital currency, or CBDC. Now, right now we have something that's basically bank digital currency. Bank digital currency is that you have your money, a lot of it's digitally processed through the banks. that's okay, but you always have a chance to use cash. And cash is your freedom, because what they like to do is centralize the money. And this is not the same as crypto. Crypto is a digital currency, however, it's decentralized, and it's not run by the Federal Reserve Bank. Right. So the Federal Reserve, the idea is to have the Federal Reserve Bank. All right, that's fine. So the Federal Reserve Bank would run all the money. In fact, they would. I'll come back to that also. But basically, if they don't want us to have crypto anymore, they don't want us to have U.S. dollars anymore. They just like to have us to have this central bank digital currency, or CBDC. The CBDC, its use would be a privilege. Your money can expire, be limited, turned off, and they can take money out of your account whenever they want. The fourth side of this is the blockchain, which is a giant database with records of your purchases, your shots, your health, your finances, and all the collected data about you. Now, right now we have a lot of things are attached to your social security card. Let's say you've applied to get a loan on your house. You put in your social security number, they get your credit report. Your insurance company can look up to see how many loans you have to decide whether to give you a good deal on your insurance. All these things are linked together. The banks know, like, who's a family member of yours, because there's all these databases where, if you did 23andMe, you can figure out these people could be related to you. There's all kinds of data that's about you. So imagine social security number on steroids. Your information, all of it compiled together, so that when your information is scanned about yourself, that information would all be accessible to they would know all kinds of, whoever's scanning would know all kinds of things about you potentially. There'd be a personal data profile on you online, which is basically already being compiled. Now, number 5 is other smart or surveillance devices that can transmit your personal data, including home security, smart thermostat, Alexa, Ring, Hey Google, Nest, robot vacuum cleaners, utility meters, hidden computer chips in cars and appliances. In Sweden, they actually have electric toothbrushes with a smart chip in it, which they can read what's in your mouth. So, number 6, social media keeps records of all your opinions, plus records of your online searches, texts, and emails. Number 7, smart cities. Have anybody here heard about a smart city before? You want to raise your hand?
15 minutes?
Yeah, okay, so you guys know something about this. A 15-minute city, a smart city, would have surveillance cameras, including who you associate with. They'd be able to pick up who you associate using digital ID, digital currency to keep you in your enforced digital ghetto. And using electric cars, which can stop, which they can program to turn off when you've gotten outside your area, which means that they can limit where you go. And in China, where they have these kinds of things, they've already, they've got fences. So, anyway, biometric data, which is readings of what's in your body or on your body. So, for example, biometric data collection is number 8. Retina or iris scan, thumbprint, palm print, facial or recognition, gait recognition, which is seeing how you walk, that you walk in a certain way. Heartbeat, mood sensors. If they can see what you're watching on a video, they can tell how you're responding to the video, because they can. It'll be visible. Also, when they're talking about smart technology, there's people who actually can have smart technology inside their bodies. In addition to the idea that some people have a pacemaker, maybe transmitting information, it's taken me a long time to actually absorb the idea that these COVID shots actually have self-assembling nanoparticles in them, and they are creating transmission devices in them. Under dark field microscopy, they're seeing computer chips inside of people, and those long things that are found in people, those in their veins after they die, when they have trouble, the morticians are finding that they cannot put the fluid in when they can't drain the blood out of people because their arteries and veins are clogged. That these are things that are technological pieces. So So in addition to avoiding technology that's around us, there's ways potentially to clear the technology that might be inside of people also. And Dr. Anna Mahalchi has talked about it. Maybe there's some other doctors out there who've talked about possible ways of clearing the technology that was put in the shots. If you got the shots, or there's also a self-spreading aspect of the COVID shots that it goes into the environment around you. So very scary stuff, but let me just give you an idea of how this whole trap would work. So let's go to the next slide, please, number 3. You start with your device. You have a smartphone or a computer chip in your hand, or you have a digital, what they call a digital tattoo. You have to have you scan yourself. Let's say you're going over to Sprouts and you want to go shopping for food. You scan your hand near the door. Or Amazon's actually got something with a hand scan. They're already starting to do stuff. So, of course, the computer knows that you're at Sprouts, right? Because it's Sprouts' computer. The whole thing gets sent into the cloud where there's this blockchain computer database, and it says, you know what, Lisa? We didn't like what you posted online. You're talking out too much. You can't go in the store. Or you don't have the right opinions. Or you bought too much food already this month. Or, you know, most anything. The thing is that because they're collecting up the information, you don't know what the parameters are. We can guess what parameters might be used because big tech is working with the government, and all these various players are out there. We are at risk of having it come back from the computers saying, oh, also, you didn't get those shots. Your grandchild didn't get the shots. You've done the wrong things. We're not letting you in the store. We're not letting you spend on that. Or we are. Which gives this whole system total power over you. So as much as I appreciate the idea that y'all want to run off and support each other because your rights have been violated, this whole system is such an extreme violation. And once, God forbid, once it's installed, rushing over there to argue with a computer is just not going to work because the money will not work. There may be like controlled entry. Right now they have some controlled, I've seen videos. I haven't seen it actually in the store, but they might control the entry into the store electronically, like it's a turnstile or something. So how are you going to get in? You can't. There's no one necessarily for you to go argue with. So we have a real problem. Now, probably recognize that this is something like what they do in China. And in China, they had some kind of instance where they, a couple of years ago, where people wanted to go protest because the bank did something wrong with people's accounts. But people who were planning the protest couldn't get on the subway because the scanner said, oh, it says, you test positive for COVID. It shows red on your phone. Well, these people were sick. It was basically an excuse. It was the way the computer posted it into the phone that they could not get there and the next day they were fine. What happened? It was just how the system was working against them. So, now, you're probably wondering who the people behind this are. Unless you folks already know all this. Maybe I shouldn't bother with this part. I should go ahead and say it and all the
Skim over it.
Yeah,
Skim over it.
Forum.
Yeah, you guys know. Okay, so.
Gloss over.
Okay, so we got the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
We're obviously a lobbying group that promotes its positions in many countries by co-opting our leaders. And then one of their speakers at the WEF was recently talking about how he wrote a book about this, and he's like smiling as he's saying, you know, I told them in my book, it's really obvious. So you could just target people and say, well, you know what? Yeah, we don't have to let them buy ammunition. We don't have to let this person buy, pornography. This one's buying drugs. Yeah, we don't like that. Whatever. It's like totally targeted purchase prevention. He's smiling while he's talking about it. Now, we know that the World Health Organization has Immunization Agenda 2030, which would force every person on the planet to have 500 injections in the next 7 years. And we know the WHO is dominated by communist China and the eugenicist Bill Gates. And number 3, can you go, Ed, can you go to number 5, where there's the video?
Keep going.
Oh yeah, that's number 4.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, okay, so let me say who this is and then just click on the blue. Okay, so I'm going to show you this man. Okay, so Bank for International Settlements. Now this is the parent organization of the Federal Reserve Bank. Federal Reserve Bank has been issuing the money in the United States since 1914. Until about a year ago, I thought the United States issued its own money. It does not. There's a federal bank connected to the Bank for International Settlements in almost every country in the entire world, and by controlling the money, they control the policies in this country, and they want to have a one world currency, which they've been talking about for over 100 years. In reality, it's a control system, and they would like us to bank directly with the Fed. So here is Augustine Carstens, who's the general manager of the Bank for International Settlements. I think the video was 3 years ago, and it's just a 1-minute video, and he'll tell you what he has in mind. So let's go for that.
Awesome.
All our analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
Okay, so when he's saying central bank liability, it means that what the bank owes you, that basically they get to control whether they owe you the money or not. So you can't take this money and stick it under your pillow because it's not real. It's sort of like having a debit card. The debit card will only work if you scan your debit card and it works in that particular store. Let's say you scan your debit card and it doesn't work for a particular store, it's not going to be applicable at all. So I don't know if they're going to end up using if they want to use debit cards or whether they want to use coins with chips in them. I seem to think there's something with coins with chips in them. It doesn't really matter to me what the technology they use for any of these things are. I just don't want it. The same way that I don't want whether it's a QR code or a chip in my hand. I really don't want it. Now, central banks of 3 countries did a trial run back in earlier this year to see how it would work to have different countries with their own central bank digital currencies interact with each other to see if they could process things in the computer. And they used the Bank for International Settlements as the hub for it. They called this project Icebreaker. Then in April, the International Monetary Fund announced that there's going to be they announced the launch of a new international CBDC called the Universal Monetary Unit, or the UMU. It has its own symbol, the U with an umlaut, the 2 dots over the U. The United Nations is planning digital ID to be linked to bank accounts. Their plan is in 3 policy briefs, including one called Global Digital Compact, another one, Reforms to International Financial Architecture, and the third one, The Future of Outer Space Governance, which I think has to do with where the satellites are to have the information. There's an economist named Pippa Malmgren who spoke at something called the 2022 World Government Summit, which for those who think that there's that we're just making this up, they actually have a summit called the World Government Summit. And she's talking and she says she's very excited that the new money is going to be blockchain. They're going to get rid of all the money and they're going to go to blockchain. And that's the setup, the computer system. She's talking about it. But she says it could threaten our rights. We're going to have a new digital Bill of Rights. I'm thinking, but you guys aren't planning on giving us one. Now, you might be wondering how this is proceeding in the United States. I can tell you in 2022, Joe Biden instructed the federal government and the Federal Reserve, as if he instructs the Federal Reserve, to lay the groundwork for potential new U.S. currency and look at what the problems are, but proceed anyway. And there wasn't very much concern addressed about this. There was a pilot program using CBDCs in New York a year ago, and credit card companies have been testing out how to enhance the ability of supervisors and firms to measure and manage climate-related financial risks. Now, I don't think it's a risk to me if the temperature's a little hotter or colder, that I can go to the bank. I think this is about how they like to maneuver us using that set of parameters. Whatever they decide is a problem, they like to have that tied in with our money, because we've seen that there's people who are being debanked. I don't know if that's a new word. That are, we don't like what you think. You're too conservative. You're a rebel. We'll just close your bank account, or we'll just shut you out. So. Yeah, the Canadian truckers is a great example, but then we've seen it since then, like Dr. Mercola. And there was a politician in Britain named, I remember, Nigel Farage, I think he is, who was also shut out. And when he announced that he'd been shut out from his money, all these people responded, I had the same problem. Now, we know the FBI's decided to label a lot of people to be, violence risks or whatever it is. That somehow there's a lot of labeling of people who would speak out when we have a First Amendment right to say whatever we want in this country, but they're starting to treat it like we don't. Now, the Federal Reserve has brought in a new program called Fed Now, which is an infrastructure for CBDC. They brought this in on March 15th. It's supposedly up and running by now, and there's something where each state, the Uniform Laws Commission, I don't know if you've heard of something called the Uniform Commercial Code. It's a set of laws in the different states so that all the states can do business with each other smoothly. The Uniform Commercial Code, they're looking to add to it that all the states have, or ideally all the states would sign on. Well, of course, California already signed on. They signed the bill related to this. Governor signed it last month, which doesn't surprise me. And it was SB 95, and it would facilitate, this bill would facilitate the rollout of CBDC, and they're looking to get rid of crypto. There's something called the National Digital Health ID being implemented by the Federal Office of the National Coordinator for Health and Information Technology. You know, the World Health Organization is pushing forward with various parameters, and that the G20 countries are looking to require vaccine passports starting with the next pandemic. You have a crystal ball? 'Cause I don't have a crystal ball.
When's the next scam?
Yeah, so, and having a vaccine, what they call a vaccine passport, is basically an aspect of what's being called a digital ID, which is basically that you have to have, show your papers, show us your identity so that you can have permission. Basically, scanning your information to give you permission to do something that previously we all had permission to do, just by the fact that we were Americans and we have rights in this country. Now, as I mentioned, Amazon Fresh stores are testing using palm print scans and QR codes to control store entry. And we know that some businesses have discontinued taking cash or making change, although I think there's some pushback in Los Angeles. Some stores are rolling out facial recognition, or may already have retina scan technology in the stores. And the globalists, okay, I'd like to go to screen number 13, please. The World Health Organization sees the QR code as the way that they will determine that everyone has taken their injections, and in order to enforce it with no person left behind. Now, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum Digital identity. The idea that the World Economic Forum has, of course, these are the power elites. Their idea is that you won't have access to anything in life without, well, where'd it go? Okay. You won't have access to anything in life, your entities, people, devices, and things, entities being like government agencies, business buildings, unless you use your digital ID to get the access. So it's like a tripwire. Everything is required for everything. So smart cities, telecommunications. Let's say you have to put in your ID in order to get your phone to turn on, a computer to turn on, go on the internet, start your car, do business, buy something online. Have access to the money in the bank, go to the doctor, go to the hospital, pay your taxes. Oh, if you didn't pay your taxes, maybe you wouldn't get to keep your house. I mean, it's just all this stuff sort of starts ballooning out into everything could be tied in with this digital ID requirement. Now, the people behind this are the international bankers who want control of all the resources on the planet, including us, and the people that the bankers serve, whom we don't know who they are. We might have suspect some of them of who they are. But I don't even think the bankers are at the top. But we might be able to name, that they're in the Bank for International Settlements. The bankers tend to work for somebody else. So the technology companies that are collecting our data and can sell it and promote purchases, they like the idea that we could buy immediately. You can scan you don't have to go look up your credit card. Just scan your hand over the screen. The large companies that will profit from the sales, and the big pharma companies that will make a killing with future injections planned by the WHO and will be able to force compliance. Now, of course, we never would want this. And I'm going to go to number 14, please. I have another video there. I'm going to play you a video. It's a 1 minute. We'll shut it down after 1 minute. Where Neil Kashkari, who was a Californian, he is a president of one of the Federal Reserve branches in Minneapolis, and he's asking a question: why Americans would want this?
Because I'm pretty skeptical. I keep asking anybody at the Fed or outside of the Fed to explain to me what problem this is solving. I can send anybody in this room $5 with Venmo right now. Right? No, seriously. So what is it that a CBDC could do that Venmo can't do? And all I get is a bunch of hand waving. I get well, maybe it's better for financial inclusion. Maybe it's better for cross-border remittances. Maybe. Is there any evidence that it is? And, they say, well, what about China? China's doing it. Well, I can see why China would do it. If they want to monitor every one of your transactions, you could do that with a central bank digital currency. You can't do that with Venmo. If you want to impose negative interest rates, you could do that with a central bank digital currency. You can't do that with Venmo. And if you want to directly tax customer accounts, you could do that with a central bank digital currency. You can't do that with Venmo. So I get why China would be interested. Why would the American people be for that?
The transactions will process very quickly. Well, except if they decide not to process yours. We don't need instant transactions. They're thinking it's going to be great because it's going to be fast. Somebody's telling them it's going to be great because it's fast. Well, if it's fast, it's because it approves it so fast that they're checking you right away, and then they might disapprove you. So this speed of things doesn't serve us, and that's what he's pointing out with the comment about Venmo. Now, the people have been planning this a long time. So some people know about it from before, some people don't. But they're not asking us if we want this system. They're just putting it into place slowly. So how is it that they pulled us into this? Because if we knew about this, we would have said no a long time ago. Now there's some people like Glenn Beck, who was just on there. He's known about this for a long time, and David Icke has known about this for a long time, and G. Edward Griffin has been knowing about this for a long time. These people have been speaking out, but it's not like they really became an important thing in our lives. And I can't tell you I heard about any of these people really before until just recently, when people are seeing it's coming down the pipe now. It's like I don't like it. So we need to see what's been done to us so that we know what's going on, and also Because we know that when we get mad, we do something. If we don't get mad, we won't resist. We'll just say, oh, well, whatever. You know, it's like, oh, you. So I'm going to talk about the psychological games that they play with us. Because I know when I'm mad about the psychological games that have been played with me, it motivates me. And I bet you're the same way. So the first thing is that they normalize everything as benign. These are tools of enslavement they normalize as benign. So now we know moms do this. You know, the kid needs to go learn to get potty trained. She puts the potty chair in the den and says, okay, you can play with the potty chair. It's normal, it's fine. You know, we're gonna move it over here now. And now that you're ready, now they're ready for the real thing, we're gonna move it over here. So so we're basically playing with their tools of enslavement until they move it over here where they want it. QR codes are convenient. Smartwatches are cool. Smartphones are handy. Paying with non-cash payments is necessary because I don't have any money with me. Of course, you could carry money, but that's inconvenient. Safety from cameras. To the point that I start wondering if they're making things more unsafe simply so they can bring out the cameras. Because the more unsafe it is, the more people will start screaming that they need cameras everywhere. They get stolen, they're getting stolen from, they're getting, harmed, they're feeling scared. I'm gonna go to slide number 15, please.
This is slide 15.
Oh, great, okay. So this is a guy who has tunnel vision. He sees convenience. Over here is the convenience. But he's being directed to see one part of the picture. He's not looking at the other pieces. If he actually was looking at the rest of it, but there he's being directed. Sort of like, just sort of like with the horse, you got the blinders. They're going to use social credit scores. Oh, we don't think about that. Freeze your funds. Zero privacy, somebody can hack your account, somebody can charge your account, other governments could get into your money, banks will have full control of everything that you do. Oh, but I don't think about those things. Now, if you're trying to sell somebody a product, you don't tell them the things they don't want, you tell them the things they do want. That's normal marketing. So these people are very shrewd, and they're selling to us. And when I was a kid, I was told, you have to be a shrewd buyer. You have to think about what's going on and don't just buy something because somebody's trying to sell it to you because they have a reason for selling it to you and it may not be your reason. On the outside, they're going to tell you the reason that's going to make it good for you. And behind the scenes, they'll have some reason that's good for them. Let's say they're trying to sell you the thing that's more expensive. That's really obvious. They upsell you on a car. Why don't you buy this one? You really deserve having the leather seats. And you really deserve having this really cool sunroof. I was like, I really don't want it, and it costs more money. Oh no, but your friends will think it's very great. So we have all those kinds of trained attitudes in us, and there's also the gradualism. We'll go to screen number 16. It's like the frogs in the pot.
Yeah.
That they turn up the heat, and you don't realize they're turning up the heat. We don't want to get cooked. And they're looking like they're starting to cook us. Okay, let's go to 17, please. The technology. This woman's sitting on her toilet. She's got one of those vacuum robots that go around the house. This picture was put on MIT Technology Review last year. These pictures of her sitting on the toilet ended up in some kind of, I think it's like an intranet, like a private social media setup. Her pictures ended up online. Her kid staring at the little robot on the ground. She had no idea that she was being spied on, but there's something called surveillance capitalism. The companies are selling our data, even on the membership cards. Like CVS, you have a membership card. They collect up the information about what you bought. But your card can say where you went because there's a chip in it. Everything's got a chip. They don't have to tell you the chip's in it. So you can remove the chip. If you remove chips, they may not allow your machinery to work anymore. They don't have to tell you it's on the box. That's because it's taken without our consent. Now there's also something about a con game. Untrustworthy people establish our trust and then they stick it to you. They're nice and they're sweet. Vera Sharav talks about that the Nazis, there's pictures of the Nazis smiling, walking along, talking to people. And they didn't have a, everyone, they thought they were friendly. These are good guys. Except then they weren't, right? So there's two last things on the psychological. One is manipulation of societal values without our knowing. There's a book called The Culture Code that came out, I don't know, like 20 years ago. And it talks about how different societies have different concerns. And we can get manipulated. So they said the coffee sellers want to sell coffee in Japan. But Japan's a culture where they drink a lot of tea. They didn't really have an interest in drinking coffee. The coffee sellers want to sell coffee in Japan. They said we're not having any success here, or very little success. So they decided they're going to train coffee drinkers. They decided to sell coffee, cookies, and candies to children, and they raised up a generation of coffee drinkers from this. So if you think about the tech that we have, we raised up a generation of people. So the coffee drinkers. So we have the people using technology. Children are attached to technology. I'm a lot older than a little kid. Little kid's already like 1 or 2 generations after me. I can function without a computer. I know how to write things. I know how to write cursive. I know how to do lots of things. I know how to read a map. There's a lot of things that children are not taught. They're basically being told it's cool. Everyone's got this. Everyone's got that. It's a toy. It's fun. It's my friend. And when we had these lockdowns, kids were at home freaking out because they didn't necessarily feel connected to their friends, and that they didn't have their phone. It's like, oh my God, I'm so disconnected, because that's their connection. So they've basically, I think, created an addiction. They've created an addiction in children. Children don't need these things, but we've created that because how is somebody going to opt out of this system if they're obsessed with technology? If they're attached to technology, they can't opt out. It's too scary to them. So I think that was a ploy. Now the last thing, if we go to slide number 18, please, is something called problem response solution, or the Hegelian dialectic, and that is something where if a country, let's say a country wants you to want certain things. They want us to be in 15-minute cities. They want us to not go places. They could say that this see what's gone on in Maui. That Maui they wanted to have those people in a 15-minute city. The people didn't want it. They now have a way to get a 15-minute city in Lahaina. I'm watching what's going on in Israel. There's places where they're talking about how people are so scared, and they're bringing in on all the surveillance. This is an international agenda. You could have those people who are so worried about being attacked that they want to have surveillance cameras everywhere. It's the same kind of mentality. We can be manipulated into getting things that we would not normally otherwise want, because they have set up the situation to cause us to have this emotional response, and then they come in as the hero, and they're going to solve the problem, and they're basically pulling us with like a dog on a leash. Oh, I want you to go over here. Okay, I'm going to bring you over here now. Oh, I want you over here. I'm going to bring you over here now. Oh, yeah, look, I just made this nice little shape. Okay, well, you just made your shape yourself because you didn't see that they're pulling you. So we have to be aware that we are being manipulated, because if we don't see it, we'll just continue to be manipulated. A lot of you folks saw it with the masks and the shots, and there's a lot of things I did not see until 3 years ago, but they started sending up, the red flags all over the place. I think a lot of people woke up at least in one way or another, with what we saw in the past 3 years. And so there's so this last thing here. So somebody said this to me. The pandemic was brought in for the shot. the shot was brought in for the digital passport. The digital passport was brought in for the biometric ID. Biometric ID was brought in for central bank digital currency. The central bank digital currency would be brought in to enslave you. So you go in from the pandemic down to the enslave you, and they just move you from one spot to the next. And because otherwise, it doesn't make, some of this stuff just doesn't make any sense. So we just keep using our critical thinking skills. Let's go to slide 19. I don't know if you can see this. It's not a professional drawing because I did it. Anyway, when I couldn't find somebody to do the drawing for me, I said, you know, my drawing skills are adequate. They'll do the job. So what we have is let's roll it up just a little more, please. This is the digital 8-sided corral with the shepherds saying, we'll just send a few more people in there, you know, we'll just scare them a little more, we'll get them in there and they can start drinking from the coffin-shaped trough. Convenience, perks, easy life, and perceived safety and security, not realizing that this is just death of our freedoms. But the people are all sort of coming in here, we'll just sort of corral them, and then once we get them in there, we'll close the door. So, now, we need to know that our strength is in our non-compliance. Our strength is in our non-compliance, and I'm going to tell you, I don't have the video easily accessible here, so I'm not going to use it. There's a man whose name is Aaron Russo who did a movie called America from Freedom to Fascism, yes. And he started out by talking about what was going on with the money in this country, and he ended up, you know, pulling one string after another and saying, "Oh my goodness, look at this! They want to enslave us." And the money was the first. Using the money system was the first step in this. But he was actually recruited by one of the globalists because they wanted to co-opt him, as they want to co-opt anybody who's a loud voice, I would presume.
It was David Rockefeller.
Or I think he said it was one of the Rockefellers. I don't think it was David.
It was Nelson.
No, it was neither. He said it was. No, it was somebody, but it was in the Rockefeller family. But I don't remember the first name was a name I had not heard. It was not Nelson or David or John. Yeah, so it's on the video, like Kent or something like that. Anyway, so the fellow, you know, became friends with him, and he says, so this is how Aaron knew what these people were about, and he says, my conclusion is, our power, they seem to control a lot of things, or they seem to be having influence over a lot of things, but our strength is in our non-compliance, because they need us to comply. That is why I'm making speeches. This is why I'm going I go on podcasts. And by the way, as a side note, if anybody can connect me with any podcast or anywhere I can speak, please come and talk to me afterwards. I've been on Kim Iverson's show. That's the biggest one I've been on. I've been on some other things. I will do interviews, I will do presentations, I will do whatever, because I don't think we have much to lose here, because this is where we're all going. How do we stop this so those people know about it? I mean, I don't think that the people in this room are going to do any better than the people down the street who don't know, except for that we could actually do something because we know. So the idea is to let everybody know we have to build the numbers of people who will resist. So our key weapons in this war are our feet to walk out, our mouth to say no and to educate and inspire others, our mind with its awareness, our critical thinking and creativity, our soul with its prayers, its good deeds and spiritual connection to our Creator, our wallet, which is what we buy and do not buy, and our cell phone and other surveillance tech, which we use in moderation, and if we can find the best ways to use or avoid. So I'm going to need your help on this to hand out the information now, Ashley. Okay, each person can have one of these if they want. This is a summary of the things that I've put together, of things that people can feasibly do. With the caveat that when I made this list starting out, I think there's two sides. The side one is page where it says page 1. That's the side we're starting on. The caveat is these people seem dead set in pursuing this, no matter what resistance they're getting, and they know people are not happy. We have to be prepared to opt out of their system, even if they institute it. So, I can give you this list of things, and you can say, "Well, Gio, I don't know if this will work or that will work." And frankly, I'm not sure, which is unfortunate for me because I've been working on this. When I first started talking about this was a few months ago, and I was feeling more like we would stop them if there were more of us. But now it starts to feel more like we have to be prepared to opt out, because as I'm seeing Michael, and I'm going to need one too because I changed it today. I need to have a piece of paper. Michael Yeadon is talking about that if we don't opt out, then opting in will be the last decision we make, because they will leverage everything on these decisions. And once we're in their system, we start getting their money in these digital ways, then they have the leverage over us. So let's go through the things that I've assembled, and I can tell you that the places that I've assembled, I got this information. First of all, I don't know, do you folks know Dan Mentz?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so he's the one who connected me with you. And the list here about what you can do with your cell phone is surveillance. That's the list I got from Dan. So, so let's go through things that you might be able to do. Cell phone as surveillance device includes email, text, and browsing. This is on page 1 of 2 on the top, on the left side. We'll go through this. And as I go through this, if you have a pen, why don't you circle things that you could see yourself doing? You're going to take this piece of paper with you. Mark it as something I could do today, something I could do next month. You know, just try to get an idea which things you might be able to do. Okay, so the first thing, and then after I go through them, we'll take some question and answer. But I think I could probably get through this in about 10 minutes. So that's where this is going here. So then we'll have about 20 minutes for Q&A probably. Sure. Based on what mental estimate. I don't know exactly what time it is. Okay, so. Okay, the first thing is, I know, by the way, I want to tell you, I'm well aware that I don't do all these things either. It's a process. For example, you see this? I did not want this. This is a 4G phone. I had a 3G phone. And my husband insisted on getting a 4G phone. Otherwise, I wasn't going to get a phone. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have to figure out how to get a flip phone. So we went and did this. Ideally, I wouldn't have it. So you don't hold it against me that I'm not doing everything on the list, because I know we are each a work in progress in our lives, and each of us can feasibly do some things more easily than others, and that's okay. So, and I was involved. Just as a side note, I will say that I was involved with a group called Global Walkout. Nice. It was I don't know if it's still listed on here, but Global Walkout was originally set up to support the Canadian truckers, and then it morphed into a group that would have action steps. And the action steps are still online at globalwalkout.com, but all the material about the action steps isn't there anymore, to my dismay, because the woman who was running that organization was running it for the whole entire planet, and she needed to focus, and she decided to basically close off parts of the website. So it's not really, it's basically on hiatus. So there's a lot of, I don't know why I brought that up, but the point with Global Walkout is everyone takes one step at a time. This is really it. Stay positive and stay one step at a time. And I know it's hard to stay positive. That's the first thing. Try to stay positive and feel like there's something you can do. We're doing this to protect ourselves, our families, and the future of freedom in the world. This is an international issue, and there's people protesting and opting out all over the world. It's not just the United States. We may not see it because it's not on the news. Of course, I don't watch the news anymore, so I'm not sure what's on the news anyway. But we don't see everything that's going on because it's impossible for us to follow everything that's going on. It's just not, and no one person can do everything. So just, you should know, we are not alone here in Los Angeles area. There's all over the country, and in countries all over the world, there's people pushing back. So, okay, so we're going to talk about cell phones. Number one, replace your flip phone, or even better, replace your phone with a flip phone, or even better with an above phone. Get rid of your smartphone. Use a landline, especially, I wrote down especially with a cord, because that reduces the EMF from the landline. Number two, have private conversations outside of earshot or view of your phone. Assume your phone is spying on you. If you want somebody, you don't want somebody to know that you purchased something, or that you're thinking about something that you don't want other people to know about, get away from your phone. You don't imagine that it's a spy, and just be away from it. Number three, minimize surveillance exposure by not leaving your phone out all the time. We have this thing that we leave the phone out on the table and it's cool. Keep your phone in a Faraday bag. Now I have one. There's one called Mission Darkness, which I think is supposed to be a really good brand.
Mission
It says
Darkness.
Mission Darkness? Oh, so it's actually similar, but yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
let me take a look at yours when we're done. I bought this one from privacypros.io, but I haven't been too impressed with it, so I don't know.
Quite a few on Amazon.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. And, I don't shop at Amazon anymore either. But yeah, there's a lot of companies. Yeah, for sure. So So anyway, a Faraday bag. Try to reduce your phone use. So reducing exposure. So cover your. But for example, I turn my Wi-Fi off because of for EMF. I turn my Wi-Fi off whenever we're not using the computer. So it means that my Wi-Fi is off most of the time, unless I have the computer on. I turn it on. It's sort of like turning the computer on and then turn the Wi-Fi on. Cover the apertures, that is lenses, on your phone and computer so they cannot track you viewing things. I thought I was going to be able to do this by putting a Band-Aid on the camera. You know, when you take a selfie, there's a little hole, and that's the lens. Of course, these are also lenses in the back you take for the camera. One of these at least is a lens. Well, only thing is that sometimes there's like a little light. There's actually videos online that show that there's actually, if you take it, they use an infrared camera, and a friend of mine had his infrared camera and did the same thing, that the infrared camera shows that there's a blinking light coming out of the front of your phone, and that's taking pictures. So one person told me you cover it with copper filament. I haven't found the thing, so I haven't, right now mine's exposed again, unfortunately. But basically to cover the apertures so that basically you're covering the lens. So you can uncover it if you want to take a photograph and put it back on. They actually sell covers. I don't know what they're made out of. Let's see. Put a VPN. I think it's a virtual network, VPN network on your phone. It's sort of entertaining because it tells me, like yesterday I was in Bosnia Herzegovina, and today I'm in Peru, or it's somehow there's a certain amount where it limits how much information is explained about where you are.
Location.
Yeah, it's about your location. Except it still seems to know some of where my location is. I'm not sure how it works, but I put that on my phone and on my computer network. Use an incognito browser. You can try Brave or LibreWolf. Use a more secure email server such as startmail.com, which is more secure than Proton. Switch from text, SMS to session or element. Okay, I'm going to go on to the. Remember, we're marking. Circle the things that sound like there's something you can do. B, QR codes, digital chip inserts, and tattoos, etc. Related to digital ID. Do not accept a digital identity by using a personal QR code to identify yourself, or by accepting a digital chip inserted in your body or digital tattoo. Now, this is actually, there's something in your phone that identifies your QR code. Don't use it. Now, what if it's required for you to use it to get into something? I'm not sure what you need to do. If you opt out, what happens to you? What happens if you can't use these things? That's a very tricky question. You have to consider what the ramifications of using these things are. Number 2, refuse to use QR codes. We see them at restaurants. Request a menu. Tell them you don't want to use a QR code. It sends all your information from your phone. Do not shop at Amazon, where they require personal QR code and palm print scanning. Amazon's compiling all your information, so I've basically stopped. I think Amazon Information Services, I heard something about how they're connected, that there's some kind of thing. It would have to be verified, but I think they're tied in with how Los Angeles would be a smart city and how Amazon's going to be somehow compiling information for the city of Los Angeles. I live in the city of Los Angeles. You might live here, and this is a different area. Consider the things about the World Health Organization. Did you have James Roguski speak here?
Yes.
Okay.
Several times.
Great. Okay, so I know him also. You can be on his notifications. He's connected with the PreventGenocide2030.org site, which is his, along with Dr. Rima Lebo, and they've got things to urge Congress members and senators to get us out of the WHO. The WHO wants us to have this digital ID system, and they want us to have all these shots and the QR codes. WHO is very much involved with this, so I'm very much support what they're doing. Except I'm looking at a broader picture from a different angle, and he and I are, and Dr. Rima, we're aligned in what we're doing. It's just that I've taken on a different piece.
You know who Dr. Rima's husband was, don't you?
Yeah, sure.
The general?
Sure.
Well, what was he? Was the head of all military intelligence.
And at the end, he was also fighting some of the things. If you talk with her about it.
Well, I saw interviews where.
Let's talk afterwards.
Let's save questions for the end.
Afterwards. Okay. I mean, and whether her husband is involved in it really doesn't affect what we're working on here. So let's see here. Okay, number 5, resist smart and 15-minute cities, which is a scheme to control our mobility and fight and digital ID via digital ID. Okay, so I did B twice. That's not very good. Okay, B, fighting back against digital currency. Okay, next column on the right, use cash. Be ready to pay exact change. Keep extra available for use. You can keep it in your car. You can keep it in your console. You can keep it in a second wallet. I mean, some people feel funny carrying cash. You can wear one of those little money belts that you wear when you go to countries where you're afraid that somebody's going to pick your pocket. There's all kinds of ways to get past your resistance to using cash. Eliminate or reduce online purchases. At this point, I spend almost no money on credit cards. I don't use debit cards. Backup plan is to use checks. I found that if you use prepaid generic credit and debit cards, which I listed here, which was suggested by somebody, that they want you to register your information anyway, so it's not anonymous like we thought. Number 3, go in groups to inform businesses you want them to continue to accept cash and not require QR codes, palm scans in order to shop. If an establishment does not accept cash, go elsewhere unless absolutely necessary. Tell them why. There's a thing called Keep Cash Worldwide, which I think is a Facebook group. They have actions where they go in groups to stores. And the store says that they want to have they don't want to accept cash. So you and yourself and your 50 friends. You got to have a lot of people. I don't know how many people works, but you get all your friends. You pack up your cart. You put the food on the counter, on the conveyor belt. You get to the end, and the checker says, "Okay, give me your credit card." They say, "No, I'm paying in cash." And you say, "Okay, I'm walking out," because it doesn't matter what you put in the cart because you never intended to. They're not going to take your money. You know that they don't want to take your money. So you walk out, and now they have a big bunch of stuff that they have to put away, and then the next person shows up, and after a whole bunch of these, they've reinstituted in some cases accepting cash because they don't want to be put in that position. So it sounds like it'd be sort of fun if you can find a bunch of friends. If you have a business, you can post a sign that says you accept cash. Be prepared to make change. I know that putting up a sign that says you accept cash can make you feel vulnerable because you think somebody's going to come and rob you. Maybe just accept the cash anyway. You don't have to put up a sign. Move your money out of large banks that are supporting this system. Choose small, locally controlled banks or credit unions. For right now, those are the better choice. If they switch this over and they switch it over to everybody having this CBDC, I don't think this protects us. Catherine Austin Fitz, the banker, has been talking about doing business with your friends. The big banks are affiliated with the Fed. The smaller banks, the local banks. She has a whole article how to pick a local bank, and so it's a possibility that you can find out from her what more to do. Next page. Advocate for congressional bill, I think it's HR 1122, the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act. There has been some pushback about digital money in our Congress, so it's possible we can stop it there. I don't know how that's going to go, but you can let your Congress member know, and your senators. Number 8, join the greatfreeset.org, which has action steps. I just heard about this today, so I don't know more about it. Now, on D, keep your personal data private. Stop feeding the data beast. Now, Aman Jabi is talking about all the data goes into a giant computer, and it's like having a beast that's eating data. So the less data that you put out there about yourself, the more privacy you have. So this ties in with the stuff that I talked about with your phone already and your emails, but there's other items to go with it. For example, loyalty cards capture information about you and sell your data. So the market knows that you're like that. They once you scan it, it says, okay, all those things that you bought that you got on special. Okay, well I guess you like those Band-Aids. You like that brand of milk or whatever it is. That they'll have that information about you, and then they can sell your data. So you don't know where your information is going. Number 2, discontinue smart apparatuses where you can. For example, get rid of your smart meters on your home, the gas and electric. The city of LA allows you not to have smart meters. Alexa, Ring, Hey Google, Siri, Watch, Robot, Vacuum, Nest, security cameras, Fitbit, Wi-Fi, your TV. Your TV and your Wi-Fi and your computer may be surveilling you without saying it. You can watch this video called Surveillance Capitalism. She talks more about it. Number 3, do not share your immunization history. Be aware of this backdoor to obtaining everyone's immunization status. The WHO has instituted some new diagnosis codes that they're calling. It's not a diagnosis though. Like right now you have a diagnosis and it says, today you had pneumonia, or you have bronchitis, or you have a broken toe. But they developed some diagnosis codes for whether you have the COVID shot, or whether you're unvaxxed, whether you're undervaxxed. And that you would have to have that information shared, excuse me, in order to get your services covered by insurance. And they want to even charge for unvaxxed people to be re-educated. So, see if you can request the cash price. If you never had insurance, then you could actually get a cash price, which is a reduced price that they say, I'll take pity on you because you don't have insurance. The cash price could be similar to the one that they adjusted down to after the insurance. So you don't have to play the insurance game. You could feasibly just get the cash price. And I don't mean necessarily paying by cash, but just get the cash price so you don't have to submit. They won't submit this. The codes, I think, start with the letter Z, like zebra. Number 5, that's how I'm in the middle column. Buy in person or use direct websites. So as I mentioned, Amazon is compiling our data, and they aspire to own the market. And at Corey'sDigs.com, she's got a booklet about Amazon wanting to control the market. They even want to be in charge of medical care, AI medical. They want you to have AI medical care. They're looking to put companies out of business. We saw this during COVID. We saw they wanted to deliver to everybody. The small stores got shut down, and the big Amazon is a big behemoth. Got more and more business, and all these people got delivery from Amazon because the stores were closed. So There's a website called publicsq.com and nobleus.com might be options to get things delivered. But you can also purchase things directly. Let's say somebody self-published a book, you can buy from their website. Let's say you can buy vitamins from the manufacturer. You can buy meals ready to eat from the company that makes the meals. There's all these different kinds of things that are possibilities. You don't have to use Amazon, and I appreciate that you like to use Amazon. So I'm not trying to. I'm not going after you personally
I don't
at
have a
all.
problem.
Okay, so then they also undercut small business in a lot of other ways. So we saw that our family had a small business, and it was really an interesting thing of how they do things. But that's, I like to support the middle class and the working people and the people who got their own businesses, and they've really made it harder. So anyhow, there's a privacy campaign called My Data, My Choice. Number 6, you write to companies and tell them they don't have your permission to share your information and share and use your private information according to privacy laws.
Can we pause for just 1 second?
Sure.
He's got to change his.
They set it up that way.
I'm just telling you, it's all small business.
I understand it could be. This isn't being recorded, so this is side.
Right.
The thing is that
But
we were my business. We were told we could do that, except for that. Then they start finding out what you're selling, and then they compete with you. So it's not pretty. It's just it's. I have a feeling that's done to capture us to think that they're doing a good thing. The same way
horrible anyway.
Walmart used to tell us that they were everything was made in America.
Well, we know that's not true.
Yeah, but they did say it.
let's
Let's go back to what we're saying.
Hold on right there. Let's go back to point number 6.
Okay, thank you.
And
We'll
just
do that.
repeat point number 6.
Okay, then I'll overlap it. Okay.
We've got about another 5 or 10 minutes to wrap it up.
Oh.
And then we will have a very short Q&A.
Okay. All right. So let's say, are you Mr. Cameraman? Are we set? Okay. So let's see here. My Data, My Choice privacy campaign. Write to companies, tell them they don't have your permission to share. Number 7, stop wearing shop wearing surveillance. Wearing things that were blocked with surveillance. I got this idea from Dan Mentz. See these?
What the hell are those?
Reflecticles. Reflecticle.com. They look like they're welder glasses, but they sell normal. They also sell normal sunglass-looking things. I just can't use them because I need the prescription. But you can. But they scramble the scramble your retina scan.
Oh, I thought, okay.
They also have these clip ones.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so start a trend. Everyone will ask you, why are you wearing sunglasses in the store? Wouldn't it be cool if we all blocked them from being able to read us?
Oh, yeah.
Don't buy into giving them your scan information when you go to the airport. They want to scan everybody's eyes. Don't look at this thing that's called the WorldCoin Ball Iris Scan. That they're basically collecting up everyone's eye information because everyone's got a unique iris scan. Fight for taking down cameras. Ask who put them up. Advocate for privacy. The government is not going to do this for us. Fighting for the government to do it isn't going to help. Do not get real ID because it's potentially part of the surveillance apparatus. Travel with your passport for as long as you can. Refuse the Everything app from X. It's Twitter. Elon Musk is looking to collect up all of our information. He's got that website, his product Neuralink. He's interested in collecting information about us also. Okay, now we're getting to education. Teach your children and others what you are doing and why. Hand out flyers, warn people that they need to opt out. There's another thing. Refuse the mobile driver's license on your phone in California. They're currently doing a trial run of that. You can opt out of that too. The thing is, they do trial runs before they institute things for everybody. So, while we can, we resist. Now, be prepared to opt out and not comply. What if you opt out and you have you need to, and you can't go to the store. Stockpile food, stockpile water, find ways to collect water, find ways to grow food, exchange food, growing food with your neighbors, connect with local farmers, build self-sufficiency, connect. There's a group called freedomcells.org. I think that Dan Mentz is involved with that. Solari.com Solari Circles. There's a book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. There's a guide online, Global Reset Survival Guide 2020 to 2025. And the Weston A. Price Foundation. There's also neighborhoodfoodnetwork.com. And as a last word, Todd Callender, who's an attorney, encourages us to make relationships with local law enforcement, because we need people who are in law enforcement who will support our non-compliance. Because just as Adam was saying at the beginning, we can stand up, but it helps to also have law enforcement be sympathetic and realize that we are fighting for our constitutional rights here. And we ideally would have a constitutional sheriff, which I don't think we necessarily have here in Los Angeles, but we just do the best that we can with what we have. So it's it, and I would like to take questions.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, I've got a question. How much time do you think we got? I mean, this is just getting a little out of hand, a little too fast, a little bit too much slow boiling of that frog. What do you think?
Oh boy, I don't know. I'm always feeling like it's going to happen like right now, but then it doesn't. There's somebody that I work who's a fellow activist with me, who's seeing that they're looking to, they being the banks and the government in conjunction with that, they're looking to crash the dollar. They'll have to have something else. The system is bankrupt. They're issued too much. If you watched Leslie Manookian and Catherine Austin Fitts, they've talked about how they have to get out of this system because there's so much debt. They've got so much obligation. Have you seen stuff by them? Leslie
I've seen Catherine Austin Fitts.
Look up Leslie
She's
Manookian.
Great. I haven't heard it. Is it a male or female?
A woman.
Leslie?
Leslie, Manookian. She used to be an investment banker also, and she's an attorney, and she said that the system is going to, they don't have the money to pay the obligations of people's pensions and the different kinds of ways that the government pays money. And so the way that I've assembled it in my head, but I can't say that this is, can't prove it. All I know is I watch things and I try to figure it out. So the way that I have assembled is they want to put people on this other money and tell them that they're going to have to get their payments for Social Security or all whatever benefits they get from the government, and by getting it through the system. And then when they don't have it, they can decide to turn the money off. It's like giving with one hand and taking back with the other. And basically, the people won't have anything, but now they're stuck because they're in the system. So this is how I'm looking at it. And so many of us are depending on government money in one system or another. Even people who are landlords get money from Section 8 for their tenants. It's not just people who are retired. It's not just people who are down on their luck, or they have a large family and they're overburdened and they could use a little help from the government one time or another. There's people, it's called Fabian socialism. They've basically encouraged people to be involved with the government in various government programs in order to pull them in financially to be dependent on the government. And then when you're dependent on the government, you don't have the freedom anymore, because the government can do with you what they want.
Okay, so I was looking at your point A about the cell phones, and it looks to me like point number 1, replacing with a flip phone, might be one of the most difficult things for people to implement.
Yeah.
So what do you feel about having a second phone line, or having a second phone that is a flip phone, that you could use for the bulk of your communication. Just
It
wondering
sounds like
what you
that's
thought
what
about
I
that.
think it's a great idea. I think maybe that's something I should do actually. The thing is that like I try to take phone calls on my landline. I'm not sure how much it makes a difference because I'm using my cell phone all the time, but like those of you who are trying to work with me to set this up, I wasn't always reachable on my phone because I'd stick it in the bag. And sometimes was that you were trying to reach
Well,
me?
I actually, to elaborate on that, there is you can actually.
Hang on.
That's all right.
Come on up so we can hear you on the microphone.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was just going to make a suggestion that because most people will search and do searches and do business and stuff online on their phones, you can separate that using a tablet. And then if you need to make voice calls or stuff like that, you can use a flip phone.
Oh,
So you can
okay.
separate the two, or a laptop in that case.
Is the tablet any more secure than the cell phone?
I
now?
mean, you could probably put some control parameters in there, you know. You can do VPNs via the tablet and whatnot. But if you just want to do voice communication via a flip phone, you know, you can isolate it to that. And then all your internet stuff you can isolate to a tablet,
Okay.
if you follow me.
Yeah, I think so.
It's the old way of doing, you know, internet used to be on laptops and tablets.
So I could
and
just
then-
use my laptop to watch the videos.
Right,
and stuff.
right, and all that, or a tablet. And then if you just want to make voice calls or whatever communication, just use a flip phone. So you can separate the two.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, a lot of people are into Bitcoin
Yeah.
and cryptocurrencies, and they tend, not always, but they tend to be people who the truthers and they're freedom fighters. Not always, but a lot. So my question is, do you think, I just don't think realistically they can really bomb Bitcoin and some of the others, but do you think they're going to try to tank Bitcoin only to have it go rock bottom, and then these globalist pigs are going to buy it and then it's going to go ping back up? What are your thoughts on that? I just don't think that it's possible at this point to get rid of Bitcoin and cryptos, especially Bitcoin. But you could think differently.
I know. I don't. I am. I don't want to be the last word on anything, really. But I don't.
Speak freely. Speak your opinion.
Well, the thing is that the pieces that I'm getting are that they really would like to get rid of. They really would like to get rid of crypto and have it only be that they will
CBDC.
only CBDC. So there was the bill having to do with the Uniform Commercial Code was, it appears that would be going after using crypto, at least using crypto to replace money. Like, I think it was in El Salvador I think they decided that instead of using their, or I don't know if it's El Salvador or Guatemala, one of the countries. It's El Salvador. Thank you. That they wanted to make it all because the banks want to prevent that they would do that in the United States, that they would replace the money here with Bitcoin instead. They said there were all these parameters that said you can't do that here. So what I suspect that was related to is that they don't want to have Bitcoin anymore at all. But I may be mistaken. There's people who are financial. I just don't know. There's people who are financial experts on this, and it's not me. So I don't, and I'm not a person who does crypto, so I cannot really say I understand it well enough to, and I haven't been following because I'm not covering my asset base by trying to find out what's going to happen to it because I just never bought it. But
Likewise,
I'm afraid they would knock off the whole computer system, and then what do you do when you don't have a computer system?
Right. But no, I'm not an expert either, and I'm not trying to be. But I was saying that's sort of a theory in itself that people think that's what they want us to think. They want us to think they're going to try and get rid of Bitcoin when really, ultimately, they're trying to tank it.
Well, what's the difference?
Well, the difference is they don't want to get rid of it. The theory is they want us, the plebs, they call us the little guys, to think they're going to get rid of Bitcoin. No, they're not. They want it to tank it so it's rock bottom. So then they come in and buy it up, and then it pings back up, and they're making billions. But just a thought.
Interesting. I can't say I've.
These guys, I don't think these guys want to get rid of Bitcoin. I think that's a con.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Super simple. Okay, what phone company connects a landline anymore? Because I've been refused to have a landline connected.
During the open market.
Did they get rid of your line from before? Because I have Frontier, but I think it's based on where you live. Like there's like one phone company for where you, isn't there like one
Burbank.
company?
No, there's multiple.
Really?
None of them will connect a business line, landline. They said nope. And the phone went obsolete.
Wow.
And they said I have to have cell phone.
Wow. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer for you.
Okay.
Maybe somebody else knows the answer for you. Oh, and also, if anybody wants to come up to me afterwards and be on my email list, or or give me ideas of you want to connect to me, or I can send you the slides, or you know somewhere I could speak, then please let me know afterwards. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay.
It's happening everywhere. They're going after anyone who opposes them. They took Tucker Carlson off the air. They're labeling Christians as domestic terrorists. They arrested the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. The same people who locked the country down for 2 years, who pushed experimental vaccines on the population, and who attacked anyone who are opposed to this, are now coming after people like me for speaking out against their injustices. I took a stand, and for that I have spent time in prison, faced numerous threats against myself and my family. And now, with lawsuit after lawsuit, they're trying to take my income, my business, and even my home. I could have avoided all of this. I could have just stayed home. But that's not what Americans do. Americans stand against injustice, wherever we see it, even when it's coming from within, even when it may cost us our own lives. You want what is happening in this country to continue? If the good people in America don't stop this, who's going to? We have work here to do. We have to confront this head on. We have to end this threat to our way of life. You need to join people's rights. Get involved and get together with your neighbors, because that's where it begins. No one is going to do this for us. It's going to be up to you and me, everyday Americans who love this country, to come together and put a stop to what is happening.